What's going on, guys? My name is Hussein, and let's discuss this feature that have been added in Chrome to do a very nice user experience, but resulting in a catastrophic side effect. I'm talking about the DNS root spamming that Chrome accidentally built. And this is a lesson for all of us, both front-end engineer, back-end engineer, especially for front-end engineer. Really, it's just when we care, because there is no user experience when, when it comes to back-end engineering, right? But the user experience, interaction with the user, is mostly front-end engineering, and that's, as a result, it's an art. And you will be, I'll talk about the actual problem in a minute, but I want to emphasize this point. You will be very, I guess, tendent to make the user experience as simple as possible, even if that means, like, hey, if I can do this, but like if I can show a certain icon or certain pop-up, right, so that it can solve the problem for a user, right? And this might be just as an afterthought. It's like, oh, add this feature, and we're talking about this feature. I'm gonna do it right now, right? You see this box, right, guys? If I type Hussein Mac, oh, let's do it again. Hussein Mac. Notice that what happened here, we get some suggestions, right, from Chrome, and this is called the omnibox. This is the suggestion box. And believe it or not, this is a very complex user experience, because how do I know that you are, for example, searching for Hussein Nasser, or you want to go to Hussein Nasser as an author, or you want to go to the LinkedIn search, or you want to go to previously visited pages? The detection of this, or maybe you want just to search for the term Hussein Nasser. It's very hard. Do you want to go to HusseinNasser.com, or do you want to search for Hussein Nasser, or do you want to search for whatever, right? The detection of this is extremely expensive, right? Believe it or not. So they say, okay, we can if there's a space like, for example, how do I lose weight? That's definitely a research topic, right? I'm gonna search the default search engine. I'm gonna use the default search engine on Chrome, which is Google, to search for wherever you from my face. That's funny. To essentially execute that search. But we don't really know if you're, for example, going into a certain site or not, right? Because you could be visiting, let's say, a local site that is called Hussein Nasser, or, for example, Hussein Mac, right? This is my host, local host, right? Obviously, there's nothing there, but this is it. That's the omnibox. So there is a feature in that box that determines whether you are in an internal network, you're visiting something in an internal network or not. And to do that, Chrome built something called, let's get it exactly, Intranet Redirect Detector. So how do I know that I am within an intranet or not? So I can display different logic and change the user experience based on that, so it can tailor to your local hosting services that are hosted locally. Like, let's say the example they give is like, oh, marketing, I want to go to HTTP marketing. That's what I meant, which is kind of silly, right? I think this is over engineering when it comes to the user experience. I mean, trust the users that they will add HTTP in front of stuff, but apparently not everyone is tech savvy to add HTTP, right? And that's another thing why we have HSTS, which I talked about right here, right? The HTTP strict transport security, right? For example, even if you typed here and you want to go to a website, right? Even you say like google.com or Hussein Nasser .com, even if you hit enter on that, how do I know whether you want to go to http:// or https://? That's another complex decision. All of these decisions is because we want to make the user experience as simple as possible. I'd rather give the user an error and then just let them actually type this thing. But I don't know anything about building browsers, and those guys obviously do. So what do I know? So let's come on to the bug here. So how do I, before we come on to the bug, there's something called ISP hijacking. Let's talk about that a little bit, right? And most ISP, not much in America, I think, but most ISPs and even some organizations, if they have a proper proxy and firewalls, they inject some marketing. So they ingest their own websites if you visit a wrong website. Like if you type, for example, .com, right? This site doesn't exist, obviously, right? And I'm gonna get this error. They say this site cannot be reached, right? And the reason is this query that to get the .com went all the way to my ISP, which search its cache and it says, I don't have .com. So it asked its parent DNS resolver, because that's how DNS works. Keep asking question until it reaches the owner of the .com, which is called the root DNS resolver. Usually, no query should ever reach the root because most of the chain will be cached. The query to go to google.com would have been cached in this chain, right? So you will never reach the last root, right? You will only reach it if it's even the first time you just created the site and nobody actually visited, or you're doing something like that, whatever, right? Or even just this, right? If this reaches a DNS provider, they will just keep forwarding up until someone responds. And the root definitely will, when that query reaches to the root's DNS server, it says, I don't know about that. So it's just like, I don't know. So that's the first thing. So that we talked about this root chaining. Another problem. This is a very complex topic to discuss. So excuse me, guys, as I go through all of this stuff, right? So another thing, some ISPs, what they do is, if you're going to a website that doesn't exist, that I could not find in my local cache, some ISPs and organizations actually return an IP address of basically a server that hosts some marketing stuff or some ads, so they can make some money. Imagine how many times you will visit a site that will not exist. A lot, right? So how much money are they making by you landing on their IP address? A lot of money, right? So that's how ISP, or they want to kind of just basically they want to market their stuff, right? Or they want all their citizens or everything to go to this website for, and maybe have some links, right? So maybe it has some good intentions, but not always. So, and this is what we're interested in here. NX domain. NX domain is returned from a DNS query when something does not exist. Okay? So that's, which stands for non-existence domain, right? All right, so now we discussed the chain, we discussed the root DNS, we discussed how the stuff, Hussein, how does this have to do with anything in Chrome, right? Chrome tries to be a little bit too clever by half. And here's how they do it, right? They want to detect that ISPs are not doing this shady thing, that they are returning, instead of returning an NX domain, They are returning that IP address of that ad site, right, to serve their stuff, right? So Chrome wanted to detect that. So they built the intranet redirect detector. And guys, now I'm gonna ask you, as front-end engineers and back-end engineers, how would you build something that will detect a redirect from an ISP? There is no way but to actually issue queries that DNS queries that they don't exist, basically. You know that these queries don't exist. How do you know that? Chrome actually issues 3, not 1, not 2, 3 DNS queries of random domain names. And here's the code, actually. Someone actually shows the code. I'm going to reference all these resources, guys, for you. This is the code that does that. It generates random 7 to 15 characters, and this is how they do it, basically. And they issue these DNS queries when Chrome starts up. You might say, how bad is that? We talked about that. Actually, it's a little bit bad, but Chrome is not a small application, guys. Chrome is being used by millions and millions and millions of users. So let's talk about why are they issuing 3 queries, guys? Why are they issuing 3 DNS queries? The reason is they know most of these queries should fail, right? All of them should fail. This DNS does not exist. These queries that don't exist because they don't even have .com after that. It's just literally just a string, right? Which definitely doesn't exist. So if those queries goes in the ISP and the ISP is doing this shady thing, then it's gonna return the IP address, right? And it's not gonna return in the next domain. It's gonna return in the IP address of that ad site we talked about. And the other query, which to a completely random DNS query, it will also return the same IP address. And if they have 2 queries returning the same IP address, that means that the ISP is doing this shady thing that's called the hijacked that we talked about, right? So that's how the redirect detector works. Sounds good, right? This way I know I am an intranet. I know the user is doing, the ISP is doing this shady thing, so I'm gonna use it to my advantage and change the user experience. I don't know exactly what are they doing with that information, but this is enabled by default, and this is the key. And it's called, Microsoft site is not working for some reason, so it's called DNS interception checks enable. So that's what it's called. So that's enabled by default. But what's so bad about this? So if you're within the ISP, that's not so bad. Your ISP will basically respond back because I don't know this, and it's pretty much fast because these queries will go to the internal organization. I'm sorry, if you're in an internal organization, then those queries will go and search for an actual host names that are called blah, 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 whatever, these random names that are generated, right? And those queries will come back very quick. However, if you are on the public internet, those queries will go to your ISP, and the poor ISP if it's not doing this shady thing, it's not returning it's actually returning an NX domain. It will say, I'm sorry, I don't know this domain, but let me check. Let me ask my father. Let me ask my parent. And it's gonna ask and ask and ask until it reaches what? Until it reaches the root domain level, guys. Yes, until it reaches the root level. And look at that, guys. This is what Chromium is doing. All these queries are hitting the root servers, which are supposed to be they are not busy at all, but they are actually handling this load because they are beefy servers, obviously, right? Because these are the root servers. They're responsible for pretty much everything. But they are getting asked these stupid questions of blah, blah, blah three times every time any Chrome browser starts. And imagine, how much is that? It's like 50% of the queries are just this thing. And Chrome market share is, look at this, feature was introduced in 2010, and we didn't know about this. It was introduced 10 years ago, guys, and we just realized it. That's how powerful those servers were. Guys, so the reason I'm making this video is just to think about, I know this is a little bit of a complex topic, but I want you to pay attention to the user experience and its effect to performance, right? Because we sometimes adding a symbol button or changing this box, whatever it's called, the omnibox, right? This might sound simple and straightforward, adding a link or adding something, but always think about what does it cost to actually do this. And I'm really surprised that the Chrome team has approved something like that. How are we doing 3 queries when a Chrome opens? I mean, I get yelled at every time in my organization at work if I'm doing a single query, and we always put emphasis in every single query that we put. Is this cheap or not? Is this check? I mean, my boss always asks me, Hussein, is this cheap to check? Is this thing cheap to add? Everyone is a culture in our organization, and pretty much, I think, everywhere else. Is this thing cheap to add? Is this thing cheap to check? If you want to add a user experience or enhance the user experience, and this is basically really a philosophical question, I guess. It's up to you, right? Performance doesn't always win. Sometimes you need to break and take a hit on performance to actually improve the user experience. Believe it or not, you need to. I think it's a must sometimes, right? Because it depends really on the user experience and how important that particular feature is. But without thinking about the performance implication, and sometimes you will actually think about performance implication, like I'm pretty sure Chrome did, right? But they didn't think about, oh, Chrome is gonna get big, because 2010, Chrome wasn't that big, was it? Right? It wasn't that big. 2010, I remember it was introduced when 2000 whatever, right? It was, I don't remember when Chrome was introduced, but it was essentially, it wasn't that big. So even we don't feel performance, because when you start the Chrome, obviously these queries are asynchronous anyway. So whenever they came back, and we're gonna make our decision. We don't synchronously make them and wait for the result, obviously, right? So it really depends, guys. And I really want to ask you this question. Do you favor user experience over performance? And I, most of the time, choose performance, but I remember a case or two where I picked the user experience in my career. I can't remember them. Even if I remember, I probably, pretty much I cannot talk about it, right? But yeah, it is sometimes, it is a balance. But this case, who cares about internal redirect detector? By the way, they're disabling this by default. This was an option that you can actually go and check. I don't know. It's just, how do you do it? Flags. I keep forgetting this shit. Chrome flags. Is that how you do it? I think so. I couldn't even find it. I don't know why. Never mind. But yeah, guys, this is what I wanted to talk about, right? Yeah, it's a piece of news. It's really big, guys. It's really, really big. But obviously, root servers are safe. These are the root servers, by the way. I didn't know about these concepts, by the way, until I read the topic, to be honest. But look at this. Look at this. This is the queries are getting said. This is just nuts. This is just nuts. We're sending all these queries, and yeah, someone. Yeah, I'm gonna leave all these articles for you to read, and I'll leave this question back to you guys. What do you think about this user experience, performance? This is just I think it's a slip from the Chromium team, I believe. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below. I'm gonna see you in the next one. Sorry for the long video. because I like to discuss about all these topics before I jump into the point I want to make. And I'm getting better at getting to the point. I apologize if I don't, but I'm going to see you in the next one. You guys stay awesome. Goodbye.